outside because the weather there is always like this. Is it asking me to continue being recorded?
I'm so ready to start like sprouting my seeds and try to garden this spring.
Oh, you have a garden. Well, of course you do.
I'm actually a very much beginner gardener. I don't know anything.
Will you tell us about it more today, about your garden and, you know, organic food?
Yeah, I'm sure it'll come up. We'll be talking about a lot of things, so.
Yeah, right. I'm excited.
Yeah, nothing tastes better than straight out of the garden. So.
Okay, I guess we should wait a few minutes.
Yeah.
And then we could start.
Give people some time, maybe 10:05.
Girls, could you please check if you're able to see the live video on Facebook on our page, WBR? Because it looks like it's working, but I just don't see it there.
Ты залогинилась в Facebook?
Нет, меня больше не спрашивает.
I see it like popped up a little announcement on the bottom of my screen. So I think.
Okay, hopefully it's working. Okay, it's at 10:03. Let's wait, let's say for 2 more minutes. Let's start. Oh, okay. Good morning. Hi, Helena.
Hello.
It is. Are you able to see if there are a live video on Facebook? Could you please check that for me? Because I don't really see that on Facebook, but hopefully we are already there. Okay, good. Thank you. So good that I have, you know, technical support right now. Yeah, I guess they checked. You said that.
I don't see it today.
Okay, River, are you ready?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, let's get started. So it's at 10:05. We will see if someone, you know, will join us. We'll let them in. Okay, ready? Good morning, ladies. My name is Juliana Kagan, and I'm the founder of the Women's Business Resource, organization supporting successful women in the USA. What we do, oh my God, we do so many nice things, and it's all different. First of all, it's online educated program. It's a seminars, waiting meetings and workshops. We do live meetings, we do networking, we do yoga and meditation on the regular basis, because we do believe in holistic approach, and that's why we have so wonderful speaker right now. It is my great pleasure to introduce you River Yeo. The certified nurse and practitioner, founded on the Yeo Wellness Collective, which provides private and group nutritional coaching, teaching classes, counseling, and birth services. Yes, thank you for coming, River, and it's just my pleasure to see you here and introduce you. Okay, somebody in. Hi.
Thanks for the introduction. Hello. Hi. So I'm River Yeo. I'm just going to share my screen quickly.
Oh, and I didn't mention, the topic that everyone of course know, but just in case, if someone is new here, we're going to talk about the work-life balance in body, mind, and spirit.
There it is. So work-life balance in body, mind, spirit. And there we go. So I'm River, and like you said, I have experience as a nurse. I worked in a hospital. I worked in a hospice facility, an inpatient. I worked in outpatient primary care facility, and now I started my own business. Like many people at the Women's Business Resource, I through my own health journey, I learned a lot of things that were not in the traditional Western medicine system. Nothing there could help me. And I tried a lot of things. And so I became certified as a GAPS practitioner, which is short for gut and psychology. It's about the connection between your gut and your brain, and also your gut and physiology, the rest of you. So that's what I do now. And I love it. I love my job. I get to cook all the time and walk people through teaching them how to heal their bodies with food. And this is my husband, Jabez. He is a counselor, and he's working towards his LPC. So we really believe in just the holistic, your mind and your past and things you've been through, those affect your health so much. And we need to have a holistic approach if we're going to see, that deeper level of healing. And this is our little Yo. So we have a little Yo on the way. It's very exciting. And it's been such a journey for me and my health leading up to this point. And I'd love to share it with you some other time. I don't have time. And also, my friend Rachel, she's a doula, and she's here down there. She does birth education courses, and she's my doula. So she's in with us also. So every age and stage of life, mind, body, spirit, that's the idea with Yeo Wellness Collective. So today we're going to talk about our body, key foods to balance our body with nourishment and energy. We're going to talk about our mind, and particularly key sleep hygiene practices to balance your mind with healthy sleep. And we're going to talk about our spirit and key values to balance your spirit for success that's beyond monetary gain. So I want to start before we go in to just take a moment, and I want you to think, maybe you could close your eyes or find a quiet moment and think, what is imbalance, out of balance in my body? How is it balanced? Is there anything going on in my body I need to be aware of? And then let's turn to our mind. Is there anything out of balance in my mind? Just recognizing it. And let's turn to spirit. Is there anything out of balance in my spirit? What could that be? And how could that be affecting me? Thanks. We'll come back to that place later. Just want you to think about it first before we pour information into you. So let's talk about our body. First off, how did we get out of balance? Especially in Western culture, we got out of balance because we live in this modern world where we have invented a lot of genius ways to pickle ourselves. And a lot of that comes from strong antibiotics that we took, that our parents took, that our grandparents took, that did a lot of bad, had a lot of bad effects on our gut health. Our digestive system is not what it was a few generations ago. And so we've just been exposed to a lot of strong pharmaceuticals and toxins, not only in like pill form, but also just in the food we eat. I think I heard once that something like 70% of all antibiotics that are manufactured go straight to farms. And they don't have regulations on giving antibiotics to animals like they do humans. So they'll just give it to them every day, their entire lives. And so there's so many pharmaceuticals in our water now because of this, because it just runs off the land and gets into the water, and it's a mess. And we process all our food is highly processed now, particularly if you are an entrepreneur or starting a business or really motivated and ambitious person, you don't have time to cook everything from scratch. So mostly we're eating processed foods that have been through multiple stages of chemical processing and coloring and preserving and packaging. And all of that takes our body out of balance. So what can we do? First key food that we need is probiotics. Pro for yes, let's do it, and bio for life. It's pro-life. All these foods are alive and living with little good bacteria and organisms that our body needs and runs off of. Every culture in the world has traditional probiotic foods. And since the invention of the refrigerator, we don't really have those anymore. They've kind of fallen out of use for a couple generations. They're just now beginning to come back a little bit because of some good people, I think, at the Weston A. Price Foundation that are making it more popular again. But I wanted to ask, does anyone here have fermented vegetables that they grew up with or their grandmother used to make? Something like, I don't know, sauerkraut. My great-grandmother used to make sauerkraut, and every dinner had a bowl of sauerkraut on the table, and none of us would touch it because we didn't know what it was. But now I'm the same way. I always have sauerkraut on my table. Has anyone had any other fermented vegetables before?
I make простокваша. It's a really Russian thing. I don't know how to say it in English, and I'm not sure that you guys have that. Maybe our other listeners will help me to translate.
Is it a root vegetable or like a leaf?
No. It's a dairy. It's a dairy product.
Ah, dairy. Yeah.
Yeah. I usually make it, from the milk that is kombucha. Oh, okay. I thought kombucha is something which is made by the
same as kefir, maybe? Maybe it's the same as kefir or kefir?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Great. Cultured dairy is also a powerful probiotic. things like
And
yogurt.
overall, Russian-speaking community is big on pickled vegetables, as you mentioned, sauerkraut. We also have similar. I think the recipe is somewhat different, but it's filled with probiotics.
Yeah.
And it's been popular, typical, popular, simple Russian dish.
So good. So good. So many people, when they come to America and they go to a dietitian because they need to, I don't know, consult about their food, a lot of times that registered dietitian that was trained in diet, you know, they will give you only raw vegetable American type foods. And so many people have lost connection with like their cultural foods, and it's no good. And so I tell people, you know, and because a lot of my Hispanic coworkers from my old job, they'd say, "Oh, I can't change my diet because I can't forsake my culture," and I and I tell them it's the total opposite. You know, like you can change your diet by going back, like to your grandmother and what she used to make. You know, and that is what really is your cultural food, because a lot of people lose some of those fermented foods when they come over because maybe the ingredients aren't there, the spices aren't here. And so eventually they stop making it, and it's lost. So, but those traditional foods are so important and so good. Yeah. In American culture, a lot of people are sensitive to dairy now and can't tolerate dairy. And so dairy is evil and it's the cause of every disease. But no, that's not true. And some people can't tolerate it because their guts are so sick. But cultured dairy and cultured vegetables are an important part of healing that gut so that you can tolerate it again. Food is not the enemy. Food is our medicine. So I don't know if you can find, I hid some pickled fish in here also. It's not actually a dairy. I don't know I forget what this is called, but you can ferment meats also. There's a lot of fancy aged meats in multiple different, you know, cuisine.
I think the fish is called he. It's Korean, I believe. It's very, very good.
Yeah.
It's called he, I think. He.
And fish sauce is very popular in a lot of Asian dishes. And fish sauce is just fermented fish in a sauce. It's very smelly, but very tasty. Yeah. But I think in American culture, we're very afraid of anything with bacteria in it. But I think that's starting to change with education. And this is some beet kvass that I put in here. I love beet kvass. It's very good for your liver. It's a probiotic drink with beets. So that's one. Number 2, key food, animal fats and cholesterol. This is so important, particularly if you're in a stressful situation. If you're very stressed, you need lots of fats because all your hormones are made out of fat. Your brain is made out of fat. Half of your dry body weight is fat. All your cell membranes are all made of fat. And so what type of fat we take in is very important and can be a cause of health or disease. And so all these processed vegetable oils that are highly processed are really bad for us. And we need to step away from those and go back to animal fats. And it's beginning to become popular again. But things like beef fat, duck fat, tallow, lard if you eat pork, bacon fat. People always like dab their bacon to like, oh, let's get the extra fat off because it's bad for me. No, save that bacon fat if you make bacon and keep it in a jar and use it later. It's so good for you. It's rich with fat soluble vitamins. It's amazing. And the same with things like butter, eggs, and milk. We need whole milk, ideally raw milk that hasn't been boiled so much and pressurized and processed so that all the vitamins have been denatured and are no longer useful for us. It tastes so much better. You need to get it from a farm, so it takes a bit of work to look for it, but I switched to raw milk when I was in this healing journey, and I just can never go back because it tastes so much better. There's so many egg replacements out there now. People are getting sensitive to eggs. People are getting sensitive to everything. And people that aren't even sensitive use egg replacements because they think that it's healthier. But it's not true. We need cholesterol. It's so important. Cholesterol, like our liver produces cholesterol because our body needs it so badly that just in case we don't have enough, we need to be able to produce it ourselves because it's so essential. If there's an injury to your artery, your body will send cholesterol there to help heal it up, and then it won't even discard that cholesterol afterwards. It will recycle it back to your liver and turn it back into its original form to use it again because it's so essential. So yeah, we need to, turn our mindset from, ooh, cholesterol is bad, fats are bad, fats will make me fat. No, it's not true. The best way to lose weight is to decrease your carbohydrate intake and increase your fat intake. That's a very general statement, but generally that's very true. And the third key food I want to talk about is offal or organ meats. Does anyone have any organ meats that they cook or that they have had before or are a tradition in their family?
No, but again, it's still common in Russia, but I'm actually afraid all of this. Even in the pictures. I don't know why. I mean, really.
I used to too. You take the organs out of the chicken. You're like, oh, and you put it in the garbage.
Yeah, exactly.
I grew up eating calf liver.
Yeah, calf liver. That's good. Yeah. And
my grandma made blood sausage with liver and hearts and lung pieces in it and pieces of fat. It was very, very good.
Wow.
Sounds very fat. Yeah.
It is very fatty, but so good.
So good. Yeah, that's the best. Ooh, I'm jealous. It's so good. Yeah. Sausages is a great way to have, and for some reason in America, I don't know why, this is the best way to get organ meats, is to mix it all in with other meat and put it into a sausage. It's delicious. Yeah, you could just eat liver just straight up like this, but it is a strong flavor. So I make pate, and I think this is the easiest way for someone who's afraid of organ meats to start because it's pureed with a ton of butter and you can put garlic and onion and salt, and it's like a meat spread. You could put on a cracker or something, and it's very, very, very good. It's all pureed. It's not hard to make. I do talk about that in my cooking classes. Sometimes we'll do some pate teaching. But I think mixing it with any other meat is also helpful. Like there's steak and kidney pie. That's like a UK thing, right? I think European. But organ meats are so important. Everyone should eat organ meats at least once a week, ideally, in some way. One way that is easy if you don't want to learn how to cook organ meats is you can take a liver and chop it up into tiny pieces and freeze it. And then that little piece is like a pill, and when it's frozen, you just swallow it. It doesn't taste like anything, but you get so many rich incorporated vitamins. When we take vitamin D or vitamin A or this vitamin, they're all separate from each other and they don't absorb very well. But in nature, everything is created perfectly to have just the right amount of this and this and this and this and this vitamin, and they all work together and hold hands so that when you take them in, they actually absorb and you can actually use them. And when we take just one vitamin, even like something like magnesium or vitamin C, it can drain levels of other vitamins because they need each other to work properly. So this is the best vitamin, organ meats and egg yolks. Both of those are very good.
Would tongue be considered as an organ meat, or it's more like a meat?
A tongue is mostly muscle, I think. So I'm not sure. It has a lot of connective tissue in it, and any meat that is more like connected to a joint or like a not just like plain like chicken breast is like, there's nothing good in there. It's very plain. That's why it tastes so plain, because there's not a lot of nutrients in it. But if you have like the darker meats or the more unusual cuts of meat, actually have a lot more variety of good healing properties in them, and a lot of collagen, which is very good for healing and sealing your gut, and it's very good for you. Good question. So this is a tag on, but this will lead into our next one. This isn't quite a food, but mineral water is so important. Like I was saying, our water has a lot of weird things in it these days because it's full of traces of pharmaceutical products and toxins, and we purposefully put things like fluoride and chlorine in our water. And those have negative effects on our thyroid and cause different issues. So having any kind of water filter is essential, preferably a good one, is very helpful. And then once we filter it, we need to re-add the minerals. And like I was saying, taking just like a magnesium supplement or a mineral supplement that's isolated, we really don't absorb it very much at all. And most of Americans are deficient in magnesium and zinc, and which are very important for your immune system and just feeling alive. And so ways that you can get those minerals are in real salt. This is unprocessed salt from the ocean or from the hills. It always has a color. It should look pink, it should look gray or something. And that's how you can tell it's not just pure sodium chloride. It has minerals in it. And that's a great way, just putting a pinch of that in salt in your water, maybe a squeeze of lemon. That's the best electrolyte drink you can possibly drink. Forget the fancy Gatorades and weird electrolyte powders. A pinch of salt, a squeeze of lemon, it's the best. And if you want extra minerals, you can even get minerals that you would put in your garden, which is like a mix of all different kinds. It's rock dust, basically. Or azomite powder, and I put some of that in my water pitcher as well, and get some more minerals that way. I just shake it up and pour it, and it has a little bit of minerals in it. So this is another very essential. It really helps with, especially when you're in a stressful season of life or you're pregnant like me, you need extra, give yourself a little extra, of vitamins and minerals. So now I want to talk about our mind. We talked about our body, we talked about food and how to support our body. Now we're going to talk about how we can support our mind. How is our mind in balance? How did we get out of balance? Well, we have our work here in our pockets and right in front of us all day. And we can look at it and be at work any moment of the day. We can be on the toilet and working. We could be in our beds with our husbands and working. Like, it's so bad. So it's good to have limits and boundaries and to try to, step away from that a bit. And I think in American culture, and particularly in the Northeast, it's very, we really value busyness. And they're so busy. They're like walking with their coffee while they're on the phone, and wow, they're really something. They're working hard. But actually, sometimes when we become so busy, it's not really fruitful. This Socrates quote: "Beware the barrenness of a busy life." If we think that we're doing a lot, but we actually are just on a treadmill, we're not going anywhere. When we push ourselves beyond our capacity, we're just running in place, and it's not going to be as effective as we think. So it's important to rest. We need to rest. If you can't sleep, one of the reasons could be that you're low in magnesium. Like I said, most people have low magnesium levels. If you are chronically constipated and anxious and can't sleep, you you most likely are low in magnesium. If you have muscle cramps and stiffness in your back, even though you go walking pretty regularly and you move your body and you still feel stiff, you're probably low in magnesium. So things we can do to support our magnesium levels is what I said with the water, putting a pinch of salt, real salt, like from Redmond Real or Celtic salt, using some azomite or rock dust powder in your water. You can also take Epsom salt baths, which is very nice because it just absorbs straight into your muscles through your skin. So that's the best if you're very stiff. Take a Epsom salt bath. It's basically magnesium in a bathtub. And of course, there's foods that have magnesium in them, like these, but most of them don't absorb very well on their own. They need to be roasted or toasted or soaked. And I talk a lot about this in my cooking classes and my group coaching, but you can't have enough magnesium purely from these foods or purely from a supplement. If you are feeling like you have trouble sleep and you can relate to the things I said, you really need to take Epsom salt baths and to put some in your water, and that's the best way. And also to decrease processed carbohydrates, particularly with magnesium. This is the primary cause of low magnesium in our culture, because if you have a pure cane sugar, let's say you have 1 molecule of sugar, you have like maybe 26 molecules of magnesium all around it. So if you were to just bite into that pure cane of sugar or sugar beet or something, you would require all that magnesium to process this one. And it comes in a package, so you can process it fine. But when we process our sugar and process our wheat or our rice flour or any of our processed carbs, we strip away that packaging of magnesium and minerals that is required. And so then this sugar requires a lot of magnesium to be processed, or this flour. And so our body uses what it has in our body to process that. And it's like it sucks all the magnesium out of us. So if you have a really carb heavy day where you eat a lot of processed carbs, you'll probably feel dehydrated and stiff afterwards or the next morning. And that's why, because it's just pulled all the magnesium out of you. It's very costly in minerals to process that, and you'll be deficient. So we need to support our magnesium levels by decreasing our processed carbs and doing those other things I said. And that will help your sleep. Another key sleep hygiene practice, this is very easy to do. It's becoming popular now to get those blue blocker glasses, and I got some, but I forget to use them a lot. But particularly if you're in front of the screen, you can use that to help decrease the stress of the synthetic light on your eyes. You can use a night mode on your phone where it automatically turns to night mode, or your computer. But the best way to do this, we have this, it isn't just, oh, it's good to be dark in the night and light in the day. There's a complex neurological hormonal system in our bodies. And the moment we see light in the morning, natural light, it starts a clock. And then, after a certain number of hours, then our body will process light in, to make melatonin and different things to like help our body to cycle sleep and wake, sleepfulness and wakefulness. So I recommend in the morning, as close to daylight, as close to sunrise as possible, to go outside and let your eyes be exposed to real sunlight, not filtered through a window or anything, and breathe the morning air. And if possible, take off your shoes and put your feet in the dirt or something and ground yourself. And that's just the best way to start the day. And if that's too much, you could just open a window. And Marie Kondo says, like, every morning she opens all the windows in her house. And that's really good to do. Even if just for like a couple minutes, even if it's cold outside, just to get a bit of fresh air and like real light coming through is very, very helpful. Because if we're not sleeping in the night, we're not going to be fully awake in the day either. We're going to be like zombies. And another key sleep hygiene practice is to help our brain to get clean. We need a clean brain. And there's a great podcast, Dr. Natasha Kempa-McBride, my favorite Russian doctor who certified me in gut and psychology syndrome. She has a great talk on this. I included a link at the bottom. And it's about how our gut, like I was saying, has been damaged by a lot of toxins in our world and pharmaceuticals in our life. And when it's damaged, things leak through our gut into our bloodstream, and they leak into our brain. And the reason we get headaches or we can't focus or we have brain fog is not just in our head, you know, it's real things that are floating around in our brain and causing these things. And we need to, the way that we can help clean some of that out is by sleeping, because sleep is a very like cleansing, it's like a wash mode for your body. But we need to stop the leak, which is in our gut. You know, if you were to get a deep cut or break an arm and get an infection that way, that would be much more severe, and it would happen all of a sudden, and then you'd have inflammation all over your body. But there's, for most Western people, people living in the West, we have a slow leak, not a big sudden one through our skin, but a slow one through our gut. And we can fix this by repopulating our gut flora with those probiotic foods, like I was saying. And this will help so much because our gut produces serotonin neurotransmitters. It produces hormones, all kinds of different hormones. And yeah, so it's good to know, just be aware of the connection between, if you're not sleeping well, it could be that your gut is a mess. And it's not just, oh, I feel heartburn and so I can't sleep. That's one thing. But you know, if your gut is not producing the right hormones to help promote sleep, then you may not be sleeping well. So if you address your gut, your sleep may get better. So that's our mind. That was my 3 things. Now let me check my notes. I wanted to just talk about our spirit. And I wanted to do this by sharing a story. So this is my family. I come from a family of entrepreneurs. This is my grandparents, Richard and Dixie, and this is my dad, the blonde kid on the top. And these are his siblings. And they started out from very simple, humble beginnings. My great-grandparents went through the Great Depression in a very rural, poor area, scraping by, picking cotton in a field, going through semi-starvation. Some died, some didn't, like really rough stuff. And but they worked hard and put my grandparents through college. So they were able to go to college. They went to business school, and they were like, we're going to work hard and build our way out of where our family has come from and, you know, come into a place of prosperity and success. We're going to be successful. They're very ambitious. And they started out with just a little corner store and like 7-Eleven, and they were there every single day. My dad, his bassinet his cradle was a shopping cart behind the counter, and he would sit there as a baby all the time because they just lived at the store. And because of their hard work, they were successful. And they owned a 7-Eleven, and then they owned another one, and then they owned another one, and another one. And then they owned part of a bank, and they just kept going and going and going. Before they knew it, they were very successful. They were millionaires, and they had several mansions, and my gram became a pilot and got her own private plane and would fly from one house to another. And they were elevators in their mansions, and it was my grandfather had Rolls Royces and all kinds of things, but they were very successful. They made it. But my grandfather tells a story a lot, and he said, you know, when I got to that point, I realized the biggest joke has been played on me, because everyone said, if you work really hard and you get all of these things, you will be happy. And I am the most miserable man on the earth. That's what he said. And in the process of really abusing their bodies, not having good balance, abusing their mind, working, never sleeping, and neglecting their spirit, they became very unhealthy people. And my grandfather, had no peace. And so he started to use drugs. He could afford it. He didn't even have to go to work anymore because he just owned it and everyone else could do the work for him. And he became a drug addict, and it would stir him up so much. He'd have so much anxiety, he couldn't sleep. So then he started drinking so much. He got to the point where he was drinking a quart of tequila to fall asleep. And it was just, this is a very extreme example, but I think we all have small tendencies that I think are similar to this when we are unhealthy, And so he got to this point where it was very bad. And my gram, Dixie, she had started sitting in a little chapel that was attached to one of their mansions and sitting in there and praying. And so one day she had been doing this for a while, and she decided, I'm going to walk into that bedroom and say something. And she said, Richard, you're not a husband to me. You're not a father to these children. I think maybe you should go. And I don't know, maybe you should try God or something, but this isn't working. And she walked out, and he was crushed. He was like, I did this. I worked so hard to get up to this pinnacle of success. And in the end, I am the poorest man I've ever met. I have nothing. I have no connection to my family. I'm isolated. I've destroyed everything. And so he came to a very low point, and he sank to his knees in that room, and he said, God, I don't know if you exist. I don't know if you do exist, if you can hear me, but if you do, help me. And he had a very spiritual experience, and that day that really became like the changing point for our family and their whole lives. And he went to Barnes and Noble early in the morning and bought a book about God and came home. This is a very famous old book that inspired many people, and he read it for 3 days straight. And at the end of 3 days, he realized, I haven't taken any drugs or drank any alcohol, and he wasn't having any effects. It was like a miraculous, weird spiritual experience. And so he was like, I've been given a chance. I can change, my life around. And so he got all these big garbage bags and filled them with all the things that were damaging his body and his mind and his spirit. And he took them outside. And my dad remembers this being the best day of his life, of like, wow, something has changed. And after that day, they started having family dinners every night, and they would eat together. And he was like, my family, it's like I had a family all of a sudden. Before then, he would sit alone and eat all his meals all alone. And afterwards, it was like they had so much family time, and they were healthy, and they would read together and scriptures. And that book that he read was the Bible, actually. It's very common scripture. And that was what affected his life so much. So I wanted to share this story with you. Maybe very different from your background, but I think a lot of us can relate to or have heard of people who've had a spiritual experience that changed their life or helped them to be healthier people. And I wanted to ask you, what key values do you see in this story? And then I have a few that I've listed out, but I wanted to ask, what key values do you see in this family story?
It is the values of connection with your family. That's the main for you, for me actually, and for you and for everyone. Yeah, this is first. And being healthy mentally, first of all, mentally and physically, of course. And try not to run to the success. And it's hard. I'm telling it to you, but I understand that it's so hard, being in balance, because all the women's business resources about it, and I'm still learning by myself and trying to learn with other women that I meet every day, because it's really hard. You need to be somewhere in between. It doesn't mean that doing nothing. You need to work hard for your success, but you don't need to be crazy. And you just need to find that right balance. And this is the hardest thing in this story for me, and I guess for your grandfather back to that days. But it's unbelievable story, really. Thank you so much for sharing this with us.
Yeah, thanks.
I'm just shocked of this story. Really.
It is a shocking story. It's a very extreme story.
Yeah.
But yeah, it changed my whole family, I wanted to just quickly go over a couple of things that I take from this story, and then we can have questions and talk. I know I'm getting near to the end of my time, but the first thing I want to point out is healthy boundaries. That my gram, she was going along with this the whole time until she decided, I'm going to lay a line in the sand. And because she laid a boundary down and said, you need to leave or change, that then led to him having this experience and the family changing. So my husband uses this analogy from, I think it's Henry Townsend, and that's a very good book called Healthy Boundaries. Highly recommend it. I have a link to it. And he says, if where you put a car shows you its value. If you take a car and leave it out in the middle of a field somewhere in the middle of nowhere, that car isn't worth anything. It's a free-for-all. Anyone can walk up and tow it away and take it or drive it off, and it's not worth much. Or if you take a car and you put fences all around it in a lot, it's not worth anything either, because it can't go anywhere. And in the same way, if we have no boundaries, then we're not valuing ourselves. And if we have too many boundaries, which we don't have too many of those people here probably, because you're all very ambitious entrepreneurs, but if we were too afraid to get out of our box, then that's not good either. But the best kind of boundaries is like a garage. There are boundaries, but there is a door, and you have control over when to open it and when to close it. And I just love that picture. I think it's very good. The next value I see in the story is humility. I think a lot of spiritual people come to spiritual things with a kind of pride, like, I am able to do everything and I'm empowered to be everything I can possibly be, and that is my spirituality. But in this story, I see a humble spirituality that says, I need help. I can't do this on my own. I maybe am sick. Maybe I did something wrong. And I think in business, we have a lot, especially big business, when you get big, we do something wrong, or we make a policy that we realize is detrimental to people's health, and then we hide it because we've already spent so much money on it and we don't want to seem like a failure. And so we hide. And that causes a lot of problems and is not very good. But in his case, he came to a point where he was humbled and he was like, I'm not the most successful, perfect man. I actually have problems and I need help. And that caused him to reach out and, have that spiritual experience with God. And I think that is a value I appreciate from this story. And the last one is family meals. This is a funny little picture. It says, I pretend that eating lunch alone makes me feel confident and independent. And I want to challenge everyone to always share your meals. Even if you're eating a quick breakfast and you're just running out the door, try to do it in the same room as someone else. Share your meals, invite people over to share meals, and have family meals at least once a day. If you can't do dinner because you have an event, make it breakfast, eat it together. And that is not only good nutritionally for you because someone made it for you with love, but it's a spiritual ceremony to sit down and eat with people that you love. It's something. A lot of people pray before they eat or say a blessing, and that really nourishes your spirit and the connection you have with your family, and it makes you realize this is what matters most, the people that I'm eating with, and it helps you keep that balance, right? So we started out with like a quiet moment, so I'm just going to take 1 minute quickly and just return to that place and think to yourself, what is out of balance in my body? And how can what is one thing I can do to come back into balance? What is out of balance in my mind? What is one thing I could do to rebalance my mind? And what is out of balance in my spirit? What am I feeling drawn to bring rebalance back in these areas, in my body and my mind and my spirit? Okay. Well, hopefully you got something out of that. I'm done. I just listed some of the things we talked about here in case you forgot. And if you guys wanted to ask any questions or discuss any of these things, any takeaways or further questions, now is the space to do that.
River, thank you so much. I feel great, really. I feel like after the meditation.
Yeah.
Yeah. It looks like, I'm feeling like I was sitting in the meditation last hour. And it's unbelievable, really. Something changed.
Yeah. You have to have hope. Sometimes we get bogged down.
Mm-hmm.
I find talking about some of these things, like practical things we can do, and being more aware, can have hope that we don't have to feel weighed down like that.
Right. And I want to eat now because everything looks so delicious. So good, and nuts and eggs and milk and everything. Oh my God.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I just want to eat.
Me too. Time.
Shoot, it's actually both of you now. Ladies, do you have a question? Any questions?
I actually do have a question. So what do you think about multitasking?
Multitasking. I think it depends. Yeah. I have two thoughts that just come to me. And I think everyone is different. Like my husband is a capacity to multitask that I do not have. And so good for him. But I think it's good to be aware of how effective you're being. If I'm cooking, sometimes I like to play podcasts. I'm always learning while I'm cooking because that's, but sometimes it's not a day where I can do that. And if I try to multitask, I'll burn everything. So I think it's nice to have those moments of focus where you're not multitasking.
Completely agree with you. I asked that for a reason, and I'm guilty of the multitasking on a daily basis from at least 8 to 5. as we're working. So I really wanted to join this presentation because it's my ongoing goal to reach that work-life balance, mind, body, everything. And I was multitasking. I had a meeting, conference call. Thank God it wasn't mine. I didn't have to lead. I did catch everything that I needed to catch there and provided guidance. And at the same time, I did catch everything here, all the great information. But I feel like just because I wasn't 100% there, neither there nor there, I didn't have that 100% as Juliana said, as I've meditated. I kind of feel good and relieved. I learned something new, but I didn't have that experience. So to my point, my personal opinion, if it's something very important to you, it's better be focused rather than multitasking.
I agree totally.
It's good to no task, to do something where you're not doing any task. Like go for a walk outside.
Without your phone.
When we don't have that empty space or that only doing one thing space, like we don't come up with ideas because our brain is full. There's no space for new ideas. So sometimes those new ideas are just what we need to be more effective or go in the right direction.
Yeah, I feel like for me, multitasking isn't an option. Like right now I'm watching my kids and they're having to watch TV. So then I feel mom guilt about that, but it has to happen, you know, and I'm also cleaning out my fridge here and there as I'm listening and interacting. And it's the only way for me to get stuff done is to multitask. But I have to be careful. I mean, if you have kids, you know this. Like the more kids you have, the more you're multitasking all the time and you can't even turn it off. So I feel like it takes twice the intentionality to just calm your brain. It's really hard for me, honestly.
That's why we meditate.
And that's why I
Monday.
mentioned it, because I can totally relate, because at the end of this presentation, I don't have that rested, meditated feeling, though I did reach my goal. I learned something new. I was keyed in, I was focused, but I would say I've reached maybe 70% of the goal, simply because at the end of the presentation, I don't have that easy meditated feeling. And that's why I mentioned, and I totally hear Rachel with kids and work and everything else and all the relatives, and especially if you help out to your family, the responsibility is so high that at the end of the day, even though I don't have any problems falling asleep, it's very hard to get mental rest.
Yep. Yes. That's why we meditate like in a group every Monday online, ladies, in Zoom.
Mondays are so rough at work.
It's 8:20, just for 20 minutes. We have a great coach. She's specializing on the meditation.
I will definitely try one of those days.
Yeah, please join us. We all need that, especially with the kids.
Or keep a garden.
Yep.
It forces you to be outside, hear the birds.
I also feel like you have to like gardening, or maybe eventually you get to gardening. I'm not there yet.
The easiest way to garden is to get what are those onion things? I'm blanking.
Bulbs.
Like chives.
Oh, okay.
And you just put them in a glass in your window and watch them grow. And then you cut them off and use them in your cooking, and then they regrow. And it's so rewarding. It's like, wow, I did this. I just put it in a glass of water. And then later you could stick it in the dirt and then let it grow there. And then you will be forced to go outside to cut it off, to put it in your cooking, and start small.
Irina is typing, it was so much easier to be in a balance before kids. Right, exactly. So true. Okay. Okay, but it's worth it. I mean, kids, really, it's
And
worth it.
we can teach our kids, how to have a quiet moment, like go sit and read a book, or go outside and count the birds that you see or something, and teaching them too, because if they're constantly being stimulated like we do, and we're constantly watching something or doing something, then they'll be just as stressed as we are.
Yeah, but you need to be, in the same state. I mean, in balance for teaching somebody else. Otherwise, it's not gonna work.
Yeah.
For your kids. This is
sometimes there's like real physical chemical issues where it's hard to quiet yourself, and that's where you need to look at your food and maybe see a practitioner or something, because people don't realize that sometimes kids are crazy, like, oh, kids are crazy. But some kids, they're more anxious than the average child, and they are unable to calm themselves for a reason. Maybe their gut is bad, maybe their brain is cloudy with some, things that are leaking in. And, that's something to think about. And if we are so busy going, we don't notice these things, then they'll just keep going and drive us crazy.
Thank you so much, River. It's time.
Thanks for having me.
I have a question to you. Tell us just a couple words about your online classes that you teach.
Yeah, so I
What
do.
is included? The cooking. What else?
So I do live in person and online, like cook with me classes, where I send the ingredients ahead of time, and then we will like cook together over the screen, or in person. I live in Cheltenham, not far. I also do group coaching, which is the main thing that I do. So for 3 months, you commit yourself to, I'm going to sit and learn with some other people. We meet for 1.5 hours once a week. And you get free access to all of the kitchen classes that you can just pop in. And we go through a book together. We discuss. We should have a private WhatsApp where we share pictures of what we're cooking and what went well and what didn't go well. And we learn a lot, and it's very fun. I'm doing my first one now, and I'm doing it again in the summer. And
how many weeks do you teach for your classes? Like how long is it?
It's a 3-month commitment.
Oh wow, that's long.
Where we really go into like like the anatomy and physiology and why are we doing this? Because if we don't understand fully why, then you won't be motivated to learn all of the skills it requires, because it's work to learn how to cook. Once you learn it, it's easy, but the process of learning is a lot of work. So
I'm asking, you know why I'm asking, because I really want to learn how to make that that cabbage.
Oh, sauerkraut?
that you do, because I know that it's so important for your body, for your health.
Yeah, it's full of vitamin C and calcium, and
and it's not that hard. I know that. I just never tried.
Yeah. Well,
thanks so much.
You're welcome. I have a link on my website where you can like enter in what you want to learn to cook, and if there's whatever's most popular, that's what I'll do that week. So
I put River's information inside the event, the online event that I created on Facebook. Please check it out. Thank you so much, River, for making the time in your busy schedule. I know you're very busy. You're almost there. I'm talking about your pregnancy. It's a wonderful time. Enjoy.
Thanks.
Thank you for organizing this wonderful and informative workshop for us. That was great. Really. I feel so much better now. Thank you, ladies.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
everyone. Okay, have a beautiful day today, and feel free to ask whatever you want direct to River or me. Okay, bye bye. Thank you. Bye.